Welcome to the NFT Podcast, Apes. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Just three, but I'd like to have millions. So not millions because there are 10,000. So maybe 10,000 of them all together one day. But let's start with three. So really, guys, what is happening every day on Twitter? Like I see Good Morning Apes. Every day new apes joining, buying their NFT with the hashtag apes stronger together. I see an incredible support every day. People making fan art. The other day there was also a first meeting in Venice. Wow, it's so incredible. So I just want to start with maybe a very short intro of anyone of you, who you are, and then I really want to ask as a first question, but were these communities possible before NFTs? And then please, you can start, or Hunter, Josh, or Spencer, you can decide, guys.
What do you guys think? Who wants to start?
I'll go first then.
All right, cool.
So I guess just a little background. I'm Josh, 21, live in New Jersey, so in America. So how I found out about the apes, I guess it's a good place to start, was like I guess one day on Twitter, a few of my followers, like their profile pictures turned to apes. And I knew about the ape drop as I'm in like reselling and things like that. So it was in my group and it got posted at like 3 a.m. in like East Coast time. Oh, you should buy this. And I had a MetaMask set up and everything like that, but I never bought an NFT before. All of a sudden, I'm like, wait, what is this? Turns out it was like $300 retail. And then all of a sudden, I go into Opensea and it's like $1,500. I'm like, oh, okay. Let me look in this a little bit. Then I waited a little bit longer and the price rose even more. So I'm like, okay, let me buy one. Then like 2 days later, I buy another one. And then I'm telling like some older guys that I know about it. They bought one. And all of a sudden, it's like my whole Twitter feed just turned into apes. And then that was the moment too where people would hop on like the Twitter Spaces and start making the ape noises and like talking about bananas and things like that. So there's a lot of smart people in this community, and then there's also a lot of people that love to mess around. But it seems like everyone in this community has some kind of, I would say, good background. I know there's a Twitter feed about everyone's background and what they do, and it was like astronauts, and I'm joking when I say astronauts, but like that scale of a job. So it was kind of good to see all that.
All right, I'll go next. My name's Hunter. Some of you guys might know me as Hunter NFT in the space. I've been in the space for about a year and 9 months. I started at a small startup in NFTs. Most of my background is in investment. Academically, I have a master's in behavioral economics. And when I found the space, I was already really into crypto. And I had some background in community management, in like investment kind of groups and whatnot. And yeah, I just fell in love with NFTs, and I left that first job and started networking and trading and just meeting a lot of cool people, Rizzle, Jimmy, and Artchick, and all those people. And I got connected with one of my old clients, and we came up with an idea that, well, one of the biggest holes in the space was the need for a service to track NFT launches, especially across different blockchains. And he started in NFTs on Wax. I started on Ethereum. And so that really benefited us. And we got hooked up with Kurt Braggett, who owns a development company in LA called Popstand Inc. that has worked on like dozens of crypto apps since like 2012, 2013. And they worked on the version 1 of Blockfolio, their notification system and whatnot. So he was like, yeah, let's do it. We gotta run this. So Nifty Drops was born. We've been working on that for like 8 or 9 months, and we just launched on July 1st on iOS and July 6th on Android. And yeah, so that's what I've been focusing on. And then Yawn of the Apes has been my passion project on the side. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but yeah, Episode 1, as we say, launched. Oh man, I think the day before the Nifty Drops launched. So I had a really busy beginning of July. And the idea is kind of similar to the Stoner Cats, to decentralize and create a like adult like cartoon animation around the community and whatnot. So in terms of the ape culture, I had, before I bought into apes, I had not purchased any NFTs for like 4 to 6 months. I was just doing the network thing and working in the space. And when I saw that, I actually bought 16, the primary sale. And when I saw the culture that was being built, for example, I saw everyone was saying they were aping in, or I just aped in. That shook me. That like shook my brain around. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fast for them to create culture. So I really dropped some money on it, and here we are, man. It took over the space, and I really think that they're giving CryptoPunks a run for their money.
Yeah. No, there was really a shift in culture. It's incredible. Like ape became a verb of people doing this. That's incredible. Like, so yeah, please, Spencer, you can go with your intro when you want.
Yeah, my name's Spencer. I'm located in the middle part of the United States, so just north of Chicago, in a state called Wisconsin, and hadn't had any exposure to the NFT space before May. And I had been investing in rental real estate for a long time, really boring buy and hold stuff. And I saw that market got so crazy. People were bidding, tens of thousands of dollars over an asking price. And I started looking at other opportunities. And I looked at the NFT space being very analogous to early stage investments. So I back about 24 early stage investments right now across myriad stuff, like whether it's crypto, like Kraken and BlockFi, or some SaaS companies, some direct to consumer companies. And what I saw that I thought was especially intriguing is within the early stage community, you have such a small group of angels. And then once you back a company, it's just this rather infrequent communication. There's nothing to really stimulate you intellectually on an ongoing basis. We're looking at KPIs, what it is that people are selling. And as as Joshua had said, as well as Hunter, like the intellectual stimulation in this space and the amount of smart people that are working collectively to make really cool projects, that at least the way I understand smart contracts primarily are written, they really benefit on a royalty basis, that originator. So that provenance, it all ties back to that person continually benefiting if he or she brings value, or that group brings value to the community on an ongoing basis. I was pretty fortunate to get into the apes early. I bought 2 at like a half ETH each, and saw the huge run up, got the doggos, kept those. I'm a really bad seller, guys. I usually just hold stuff forever. And it's been wonderful to ingratiate myself in these Discord communities, because I thought Twitter was great to begin with, but then you really get in deep in Discord, and the level of intelligence, whether it's NFT or DeFi or whatever, that people exhibit is phenomenal. And having come, like Hunter, from the investment background and a finance background, it's wildly stimulating to me. So like every single day, literally a couple hours a day, I'm spending in this space trying to better understand what people are doing. And the apes, I think, are indicative of probably the cream there of the crop, along with punks and a few others.
All right, got it. Incredible. So basically, what you all are saying is that this is a community of smart people. So this justify the fact that you spend so much to buy this ape and be part of this, because this is probably the first people that started NFTs and crypto years ago, and they found this way of being home together in this. So my first question now is, why apes? So there are different communities, right? We can see every day people creating avatar projects of always the same stuff, 10,000 avatar project every day. So how is it possible that the smartest mind in circulation into the NFT space, they all went into this ape community? What happened? What these founders made? What happened really? Because I am in Europe, guys. So people here, not just thinking about NFTs, but the way of thinking about community, it's very incredible, very different from what is there in US. So in US, it's amazing the fact that you maybe already know yourself. Like you maybe know yourself. This is what happened. Like people were knowing themselves before joining apes, and they said it was the word of mouth of saying, hey, I bought. What happened? Because like there was sold out in one day, and this is just the beginning.
I guess to hop on that, I think that I know that a lot of people that I was introduced into an ape community early on, they were moving over from NBA Top Shot. So I think NBA Top Shot brought a lot of people into the general NFT space, and they're buying NFTs without really knowing they're buying NFTs. And then when NBA Top Shot kind of died down a little bit, where we're making like $1,000 a drop anymore, I think that they followed a few NBA Top Shot creators or people on Twitter, and those people turned into apes. So I almost think that NBA Top Shot dying down had a huge impact on the apes, being so strong so quickly and so early on.
Good to know. Didn't know anything about this. Other reasons that you've got, guys, that you want to add?
At least for me, it was kind of funny when I first got into the apes. The thing that was the big value proposition was the bathroom. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I have 2 pixels and now I changed the pixels. Now what do I do? And I think that their roadmap was so almost self-deprecating, where they said we're not going to overpromise what we plan to bring to the table, but we do have these aspirations. And it was nebulous, like a lot of roadmaps. But again, at the same time, it wasn't this really grandiose idea. It was more like, let's just figure it out and be forthcoming as to what it is we're doing. And we build the plane as we fly, so to speak. And that, I think, is really the follow through is very much indicative of what they promised to do. So that's where I feel like the apes have continuously, if we look at like the almost 5,000 holders now, people are really into the fact that they are part of the ape community, and they like to help each other and just be I don't know, be supportive of each other as well with all of these side projects and that kind of stuff. Like, you don't see jealousy. At least I don't perceive that. I see more people actually trying to help each other succeed in what their projects are.
And I'll add a quick thing to that. I'll add one more thing to that. I think that a big thing too is the whole ape follow ape thing is a huge thing on Twitter, right? So all of a sudden my Twitter account went from like 200 followers, which like friends from high school, and now it's like 3,000 followers in a matter of what, 8 weeks? 8 weeks, yeah, 2 months. So it's pretty amazing to see that the community is really strong. Where it's like a profile picture, click. There's one time where I was just going through like hundreds of profiles, just follow. So I think that definitely tied into the fact that it feels like a family, right? You're following everyone. I see people like getting married now on Twitter, and like, even though I have no idea who they are, I only know them through like a little ape profile picture, but I'm like genuinely happy that I'm like, oh wow, they got married. Or at the Venice meeting, it's like, oh wow, everyone came together. So it's really cool to see that.
So yeah, it's a combination of facts, like different things that happen all together. But I think that what put all them together, it's really Twitter. Because if you were using other social like Instagram, it's not possible to build community on Instagram, right? It's possible to build audience, but not community. And what's a community? It's something that after you, from the side of the founder, after you create your product, people keep interacting. Also, if you are not there, like, this is community. And this is an incredible example that anyone in this NFT space needs to take as a reminder on how to create a community. So because we are talking about NFTs and communities, why these kind of communities before NFTs weren't possible? What is of NFTs that make them possible? Is it the transparency on the blockchain? Is it the fact that it's a financial asset? But what is it, guys? I don't know. I don't have the answer to this.
Yeah, this I'd really like to answer this. I mean, from my perspective, I think that now that we have a tool that provides us the ability to display or just like prove ownership of digital assets, it's similar to, you walking around and someone, let's say you have like some Gucci sunglasses on, right? And you walk past someone, or you're meeting with someone and they have the same sunglasses or something. That's conversation and that's connection. And then, so that's just like your first connection. So what happens after that? Well, the conversation started, but now you're going to talk about whatever. You might end up, finding out you're both in tech, or you both have invested into crypto, which if you're into apes, you have so much in common because you've done both of those things most likely. So that just creates solidarity. And I really think it has to do with the technology.
Awesome. Good to know. So you basically say people that are similar between them, because if you buy an ape, like, you are really similar to me. I know for sure that if you're spending this amount, if you are in 2021, that is incredible early for NFT space, because if you go on like analytics website, you see that there are basically 10,000 people online on Opensea. That's incredible. Like it's a small number. So basically, you say, yes, they are similar and they buy it. And if someone in real life buys Gucci stuff, like there are so many people that buy Gucci stuff that you cannot say it's similar. Okay, very interesting to know. So one thing that I want to know more is, okay, like this community is being built inside Twitter, Discord, and in order to build a community, is also needed the contact with the founders at the beginning. So you are inside Discord and Twitter, do you have the possibility of communicating a lot with the founders? Is it important or not? What's your thoughts about it?
I mean, for me, I guess it's not too important as to, if you think about it, almost being analogous to like a professional sports team, right? Where you have the GM, you have the manager, and then you have the players. I think that within Discord, that's really the players and your peers, and you really don't care as much about the manager, which would be the moderator, the GM, which would ultimately be the owner. I think the anonymous projects are a little bit tough, especially when we saw some of the like the pure rugs, like the Panda Golf Squad, where it just went belly up, and they just basically shut down their Discord. As far as I know, they might be having a resurgence, but I might have missed it. But I think it's really about that peer group that you're on the field with, so to speak, and trying to learn from them and figure out from Discord, because it's not just within the context of that one community. Clearly, and I think Hunter and Francesco, you hit on this, really, really well. It's, if you think about the alphabet, and if you try to explain NFTs to a layperson, and you start at the letter A, it's like, it's a lot of work to get to B, right? But if you see another ape, you're like, okay, I can talk about like F, or I can talk about M or X or whatever. And like, hey, have you tried DeFi? It's like, yeah, like this is what I'm figuring out, right? So it's a lot easier to have very formative conversations, because you know that you've already gone through all of these steps just to acquire your apes to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important, especially now at the beginning. This is why I'm running different projects alongside to this podcast, and they're all about education. Because you know that if people don't understand what's an NFT, all this stuff, you cannot start contribute and collaborate. So I think that it's awesome for you also the quality and velocity that you've got in creating in this community, because you already know who you are and what are you doing. So about the community and the apes, there is something that funny that I want to ask you. If Bored Apes weren't bored, do you think that being successful the same? Like, is it this adjective there that is making also the difference?
I definitely think so. I definitely think there's like this whole like, people will post pictures on Twitter and they'll say, "Oh, bored of this" or "bored of that." I definitely think the name for sure helped them a lot. I guess just like a cool thing. It's also like when you talk about it with like people who don't know about the Bored Apes. I tell them, like my friends who now finally are into NFTs because I forced them to buy ones. But before, it's like, oh, you're in the Bored Ape Club. It's like, what's that? It's like, oh, it's like this, like, and it's hard to explain too. It's like, what is it? But you should buy into it. So I think that the name itself is cool, and obviously the avatars look cool. Like, kind of, I think no matter how old you are or what you do, you can agree that the avatars do look cool. They're appealing to the eye.
So it's something, Bored Ape was something that was used before Bored Apes. Like, this is something, let's say, common in culture that people in a sense use also on Twitter. Okay, awesome.
And I think, if I may also, man, I think it's an ironic statement as well, because if you objectively, right, look at the fact that we're sitting on fairly significant amounts in these JPEGs that we could just easily sell and realize a lot of fiat currency as a result. I think that many of the people here are aspirational with what it is that they want to do. So they're actually the opposite of being bored, right? They're like, hey, I've acquired some level of success. Now I need to keep moving and pay it forward. And this allows me the opportunity to do more, as opposed to just sitting back. And I mean, that's where, because I'm older than you guys, like the people that I hear that just like, I can't wait to get to retirement. It's like, well, then what? Then you're bored, then you're dead, right? So the board, I think, is really a play on just the fact that we are, trying to accomplish cool and difficult stuff as well.
Totally.
Yeah, instead of saying, oh, I am the best, like, I'm bored. I'm simply bored, so I can do my stuff when I want. So I think that there are some apes that join the community too that are Damien Hirst. Recently, we discovered that he joined the community. Are there other components of this community that you are most proud to have into apes? I don't know if there are others. Some famous.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Yeah, there's a LaMelo Ball. I think that was a big deal in Discord when he came in. I think people were freaking out that NBA player got an ape. Then Josh Hart too. I think he's done a really good job of talking about NFTs and things like that. I think Des Bryant too. He's plays for the Cowboys. He hopped in. There's a famous DJ, I forget his name right now. He hopped in. So I think it's cool to see that, you know, famous people that you'd think would never even hear about this decided that it was a good idea. And that also shows that the community is so strong too. It's like, oh wow, who told LaMelo Ball about the Bored Apes, right? It's like, oh wow, it's much more like spread out than you would have thought.
Got it.
For sure, yeah. I think that those first three that you mentioned, specifically like the athletes, you know, that they're actually trying to like build a little bit in space. I don't know in terms of LaMelo and Josh Hart with what if they're building any businesses, but like Des Bryant and what he's building out with, I think Jimmy Daif and Gary Vee, right? They're building out some sort of thing for college athletes and getting NFTs in terms of that. I think that we're going to see more of that. And like you were saying earlier, Josh, like with the crowd that really jumped into apes in Top Shot, you know, and then they see these pro NBA players come into apes. That's huge. That's huge for FOMO. I'm sure that was huge for the price. So crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. I love any part of this process of famous people and not just famous people joining this community. So there are some stuff that you said that you wanted to talk to me about, guys. And there is one. We can start with this thread of Spencer. That it's a thread that says, "Here are 3 ways I'm using Ethereum to earn yield right now that you could consider too." Said another way, getting paid to own something instead of speculating. Not investment advice. So would you like to give us your not investment advice about?
Yeah, man. I guess it again goes back to the real estate thing where you can look at real estate as being either a flip where you buy something for a certain price and then you either improve the property or you do something to it to get some kind of value out of it. And then when you sell, that's a one-time extraction of that value, right? Or you could certainly sell at a loss and take a loss as well. But I always look at it from the standpoint, if you can go through the machinations of owning something and have people pay you to own that, and you look at that as a long-term view, it just makes so much more sense, at least for me, to reconcile the fact that, okay, I have to go through these bumps, but yet at the end, I'm going to come out a little bit better because I get to own this thing free and clear. And if you have enough of those properties laying around, suddenly it means something. And I feel like that's kind of what this project, Bored Apes especially, has looked at almost without even knowing what they were doing ahead of time. Like the doggos were never in the roadmap, and I didn't even hear a rumbling about, I don't know if you guys did at all, but like they just came out. It's like, holy crap, like what happened? Like they dropped these things in our wallets that we didn't even know were coming, just to add more value. And I feel like the more that we understand that, if there's going to be the flipping part of it, but really to engender that trust in a community and those who are supporting the community, and the more that you can continue to give back, that's at least what I try to look for in these projects. And some I've had massive failures in, and some have, like the apes, have gone really well. So it's a vetting process, I guess, and a learning process over time.
I'll add on to the whole flipping part. I think now, like I only own 2 apes, so it's hard for me to ever sell one anytime soon, because if I sell one, they only have 1 left. I obviously wish I bought more when I first did, but I know nothing you can do about that. But I think, yeah, so like my background a little bit is like reselling, right? So like I resell sneakers and PlayStation 5s and anything that resells or has value, I'll sell. I think with sneakers and things like that, it's very easy. Oh, you buy this, sell this, you move on. Buy this, sell this, and move on. But with the apes, you can't really move on, because if you move on, you're losing tons and tons of money. And then you try to flip, you might not be able to buy back in ever. Obviously, we could plan it perfectly right. I would have probably moved to a better ape by now. I would have sold when the run happened, sold here, wait for the drop, buy again, wait for the run again, sell, do whatever. But I think that the flipping, like you were saying with houses, it's you can't flip here really easily because you maybe can never buy back in. There's only 10,000 too. And I think now we're approaching 5,000 unique users. So once it's at like 7,500, it's gonna be very few for sale, and people are gonna want the top dollar for their ape.
Absolutely, yeah. I gotta say too, like I now have 11 apes, and Josh, like it even having more, dude. I hated selling one 2 weeks ago. Like it's horrible. So just don't buy a ton right now, thinking that's gonna go away. Yeah, because I sold one 2 weeks ago because we hit the whatever. I think I sold it for like 6.9 ETH, but I had an offer for it at that price, and I was like, honestly, hun, like if I don't sell one right now, I'm a bad investor. And that's really what it came down to. And I had to have that conversation with myself. And yeah, man, it's rough. And I know my perspective is that I go really based on culture. Sorry about that siren.
Oh, no problem.
I go with culture, and I really think that the ape floor will definitely catch up to CryptoPunks at some point. So at the same time, when I'm thinking of selling an ape, I'm looking at this as 40K within the 1 to 2 years from now. And that's another tough part about it too,
Oh, yeah, that's terrible. Like it's like your babies. You don't want to sell your babies, but you are smart enough that you got a lot of them. Like I think at 11 it's a good number. Like I have got 0 of them, right? So having 11, I think that's a good investment for your future.
Yeah, I'm chilling.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to I had a meeting with Gary V's brother AJ before. We were talking about like the V project thing, and obviously we talked about the apes too. And then we had a meeting with like 3 other people, and like the other 3 were telling me, "Oh yeah, sell your ape," when it was at like $5,000 like USD. And I'm like, they're like, "You already like 10x your money." I'm like, it doesn't. I'm like, that's not the point. I think it's going to be 100x, right? Come 2 years. So it's hard from a straight financial, like you're a financial advisor, like, oh, you made your money 10x, you should definitely sell it 100% or make some money back, right? Because even my dogs, I could sell my dogs right now, and my investment in my apes, in my head could be near to 0. But it's hard for me to sell it. I'll sell the house before I sell my apes, really.
That was a smart move, the one of the doggos. Like instead of just creating utility, you are rewarding people with another NFT. I think it's first time seeing something like this in this NFT community. So wow, really smart move. Okay, so Josh, you've got something that you wanted to talk about too before probably you already started. Avatars changing to apes back in early May. This is something
So I
that you
think
wanted to share.
yeah, we kind of touched on that already, but I definitely think that that was really the first time I've ever seen avatars changing like that into even like the regular followers that I had on Twitter before. So friends from high school, they were puzzled as to like why I was first off gaining so many followers, and then also like why is my profile picture now this ape? So it got people even who knew nothing about NFTs or nothing about the blockchain or nothing about crypto. That I'm sure, like when I think it was Josh Hart, I'm sure that turned into tons of people just by him simply changing his profile picture into what is this and why would your profile picture not be a picture of you? That's right. A profile picture should be a profile of you. So I think that definitely 100% played a big part in the apes taking off, was the profile pictures just changing. It seemed like it was like in a matter of days. Any like big person I followed on Twitter change your profile picture, and it's a FOMO too, right? You don't want to be the only person to not have an ape as your profile picture. You're going to be a loser then, right? Something like that.
Oh, that's incredible. The level of FOMO, but it's also the level of culture. So this is why I really wanted to understand more what is all this movement around. And there are already people building amazing project, interesting project around this. One of these is Yawn of the Apes. So Hunter, you're building Yawn of the Apes and you're building Nifty Drops. So please share with us more about your projects.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. So Yawn of the Apes, like I told you guys, I went a little ham during the primary sale, and it was actually 3 days after the primary sale where I had this idea and I was like, I have to move on this. It was between those 3 days where I was like, what if someone created an Adult Swim Bored Ape Yacht Club kind of animated series where it was like even episodes that were 1 to 2 minutes, where you have a really thin, short plot, and you just get some laughs. And I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I found an animator on that third day, and we started working it out. And I started hitting up a lot of OG influencers that I had connected with. The first one was Jimmy.eth. Who has been really helpful to me, and I've connected on a couple of different things with. I hit up Ronan, the collector. He's actually going to be episode 2. So every single episode will feature the ape of one of these influencers. Episode 3 is Pranksy. Episode 4, I think, is Josh Ong, maybe. And the idea is each episode kind of captures some aspect about either that influencer, something that happened on Twitter recently or over the summer, or just some aspect about the NFT space or culture. And right now we're building out episode 2, and that should be released either next week or the following. But we had like 700 views in the first 3 days, and I didn't keep pushing it. I was like, okay, well, that's great. For our first influencer, he got us like 700 views. And now, we'll see how many Ronin brings. You'll see how many the Pranksy episode brings. Actually, I haven't told anyone this, but episode 3 is also going to have a cameo of Digital Art Chicks Ape. I got permission for that about 3 weeks ago, and I'm very excited to kind of duel her against Pranksy a little bit, because there's been a little bit about, that on Twitter. So yeah, that's Yawn of the Apes. We crowdsourced our title, and we're looking to crowdsource cameos and content and different parts of the show going forward, maybe founding a DAO. I really want it to be community first. But there's a lot of work, and there's hopefully we can get another animator so that we can start pumping these out twice per month or something. But that's Yawn of the Apes. And then Nifty Drops is a little bit more.
Sorry for interrupt. One thing about Yawns of the Apes.
No.
So it's very interesting to see that any project that someone like you is developing around the apes community always thinks about community first. So okay, is it available to anyone? But I'm gonna create some members only benefits for my apes in order to consume, in order to be rewarded from this project. So this is very, very, very new in the world. Like this has never been the way of thinking from brands before. So you are collectively building a brand where any one of your apes benefits. That's incredible.
Right, absolutely. And something I forgot to mention is that I hit up Gargamel very early, which was great, because hitting them up now is very difficult. And I asked him all the guidelines I need in order to do this right, without taking anything that they don't want me to take, without using the brand and stuff. And he gave me some very, very clear guidelines, and that was so meaningful so early on, and that he was hyped about it. And I think that it's just brilliant, because, this is all just marketing for them. Of course, everyone should create around it. That's just going to make it spread like wildfire if they're not going through the NFT or the NF Twitter space and stuff like that. But yeah, Nifty Drops is a little bit more of. Am I losing connection, or am I still coming in?
No, yeah.
You're good.
Perfect. You're here.
All right, awesome. So Nifty Drops is a little bit more serious project. I told you guys it's an app, and that we launched and whatnot this month, but it's talking about Josh and you trading sneakers and whatnot. This app was really inspired by the Nike sneakers app. I don't know if you've used that, but it's really just it's a product hunt for NFT projects. So you go in and we connect you to the launch pages. There's a little blurb. We have notification system and we have Google and Apple Calendar connectivity. So you could even come up on the app like once a month and just set up all of these drop connected to your Apple or Google Calendar. And now you're just going to get notifications from your phone in general.
That's so useful. Like also one thing that I found very useful about Clubhouse is the fact that you have got calendar scheduled of the meetings. And basically what you're doing is, okay, there is so much noise now inside this world. I don't know which kind of NFT projects are going to be on and when. And you are creating, I think it's the first database that really keep tracks of these NFT projects, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there have been some that try to do it since I've been in the space, but they've lasted like a month or two and they've just become overwhelmed. We're really trying to make this a autonomous app at some point, and there's a lot of stuff in the works. We're working on building out our own token. We're doing all that. But I think that we have a lot backing us and a lot of people backing us and a lot of NFT scouts across Ethereum, Wax, Flow, etc. that we can really get this done. And so another thing I forgot to mention, something that's really tough in NFTs, I think for all of us, is time zones. Someone mentions a drop in their time zone, and how likely is someone, talking about like behavioral economics, how likely is someone to like take the time for all of these drops and be like, oh, well, like, what is that in my time zone? Let's say it's a drop and they list it in like Sydney, Australia's time zone. Well, people are going to be like, okay, well, whatever, or they'll look for the next drop that's listed in their time zone. All the drops on our app, they're adjusted for your device's time zone. So it's going to be right for you as you're on the app. And I think that's something that I haven't seen across any of these other NFT launch tracking sites. Many have actually launched within the last month. And I think that was first and foremost because they saw our app launch and they're like, oh my God, these guys have an app. We got to get this moving. And yeah, I mean, we're very confident that this will be a tool for mass adoption of NFTs as well. Instead of, someone putting you on the spot, what's an NFT? And someone coming up with the millionth definition of an NFT, because it's tough to do when you're right on the spot unless you've been in the space for so long. I hope that people take out Nifty Drops and they're like, hey, here are some examples. This is what NFTs look like. This is where you can go, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome. I think
It's a really good point.
Yeah, I think that sorry, no, go, please. Go.
Oh, no, you're fine. My bad. I was going to say it's a really good point for the time zones. Because even for this, I know we said, well, like, let's have a beer, but for me, it's like it's noon, so I'm not exactly ready to have a beer just yet. But yeah, I think I'm in a bunch of discords, and for some of them, it's too much for me to like constantly be converting the time zones and everything like that into my time zone. And then after a while, if I'm not that excited about it, I'm like, whatever, I'll just skip it. I just don't feel like doing the math in my head even for half a second. There's just too much going on for me to even want to do it.
Yeah, it's so important, especially now that we are becoming a global community, having this time zone. And one thing that I wanted to say about NFT, you said some people still don't know, and it's difficult to say what's an NFT. I think that personally, for me, becomes more difficult every day to explain what's an NFT than the beginning. Like more and more I know about NFTs, more and more I say, how the fuck I can explain you what's an NFT in one sentence? It's impossible.
Curse of knowledge, man. Yeah. It's too hard to go back to what you didn't know before, right?
Yeah. That's the key when you want to really teach stuff. But I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, guys, so I think that now I want to go into, because we already went into derivatives and other projects that are creating around this community, this amazing project of Hunter, really. Thank you for creating this stuff. And before going too deep, I want to talk about IP, intellectual property. So I think that there is something very unique here inside this community, because when you buy an NFT, usually you don't have the copyright to use this NFT for what you want, for merchandise, brands, and everything else. So what's in general the topic of IP into NFTs, and what specifically what you're seeing about EP and ape community now? Who wants?
I'll start then. So I think it's cool to own the IP, right? So I think pretty soon after I bought my ape, I just went on some random website and just printed on like a bunch of things just because you could, right? It's pretty unlike it's not that really hasn't happened before. So I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely want to like put my ape on a t-shirt and or a pillow. I think I have like a blanket somewhere around here that has an ape on it. And it's also like a talking piece too, right? That's I think one of the coolest. I printed out a bunch of my apes on pint glasses, right? When I had friends over, like, oh, what's this? Where'd you get this pint glass from? And it's kind of like a conversation piece, and it ties into again just how cool the community is. With you can print it on anything. I've seen iPhone cases, and I have this little guy behind my desk. I'll show you.
Oh, wow.
It's like and when people ask about it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's my ape graduated from high school is what I tell them. So it's like it's just like a stupid little gimmick, but overall, I know Hunter's saying with his making videos and content around everything, it's super important to own IP, and it really hasn't been done before, and it's gonna really take off. I would not be surprised if in the next 3 years that you see a little snippet of a cartoon on Cartoon Network or on Netflix or something like that. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, I struggle with this question, guys, because like I talking about Gary V, that I bought one of his V friends I watched the Dutch auction, watched one of these cores go down from 3 to a half an ETH, and I bought one, and then ETH kept dropping, so I aped in. Now I have a dozen V friends, but you don't control any of the IP on that. But in that case, I think you're taking somebody who's got a massive track record of success and be like, I trust you to build whatever story you want to build around these people or these characters. But then if you contrast that to the apes, and like you said, Josh, I mean, the fact that you can build really whatever you want, and if these prices start to increase more and more and more, I've seen that these rumblings of people possibly renting out the IP on their apes to have people create derivative projects as a result. So it seems as though it's just this really cool, empowering thing. If you say, well, what am I going to do with this thing now that I have it? It's a neat way to get people to say there's no reason they, as the organization, as Bored Ape Yacht Club, needs to tell you to change your avatar picture to this. It's like, of course I'm going to do this because it's good to have the ape strong together idea, right? So it is I think a balancing act of who do you trust with the IP and what plays out as a result. But given the creativity and business acumen and technology understanding of this group, I mean, it's just going to get more and more massive, because you've seen like the Bored Apes appearing on Times Square, like these other areas, like that would never happen with a normal project, but the entirety of the group benefits as a result from that. So it's been really fun to watch that.
Yeah, totally. I think that, this is something that I don't really focus a lot of my time and thought on. But, it ties to, in terms of what, Bored Ape Yacht Club and how they focused it, it's just all marketing. It's all just like getting it out there. If you have an army creating all this stuff that, some of it might not be cool, but, even if it's not cool in terms of like it's not well made or something, it's still awesome in the fact that they were inspired, right? And it's that whole culture kind of thing. I do think that with like other projects, right now, it's still the Wild West in NFTs. And I think that at some point we're going to run into some crazy lawsuits at some point, not to be negative and not to be, to really think about that. But I think we're going to see that at some point, and that's going to be ground shaking within the space. But as for like so far, we haven't seen that yet. So at some point that's going to rise and we're going to all learn a lot.
Yeah, helping on that, Hunter, I know that there's already some papers being drawn out for Opensea because right now you could really put anything on there and sell it. So yeah, there's those papers have already. I've seen some of them already, and
Oh
Opensea
no.
is not going to be very happy when they're served with some massive changes they're going to have to make. Because you can right now you can just get a picture of Spider-Man and post it and sell it. That's obviously not allowed. So
Right.
it's going to tear the place, but it's going to be better when you do own the IP for the Bored Apes, right? So that's going to say, look how important the IP is, and I think this is also going to go into like those little like shops you see like on the boardwalk that are obvious ripoffs of every brand there is. I think that's going to go into that too, where it's like, okay, here's a who owns the copyright. It's on the chain, and the rules are very straightforward, and copyright's gonna change just because of this too overall, both on digital and physical.
Yeah. And I think it's very important the parallel between VFriends and apes, because on a side you've got, as we were saying before, smart people that already know what NFTs are, and you as the founder of the project, you know these people, and you know, okay, better in their hands, like do what you want with this, have complete freedom, because as Hunter was saying, this is fucking marketing. Like this is the marketing of the future, in which I don't have to spend money and resources in building. I spend all of them up front, but if I spend them well up front, I will find myself with the best token holders in the space, spreading the voice, creating and be rewarded in probably in the first time in their life in which they can do something like this all together, because there always been no freedom in creating this kind of stuff, always. And I'm sure that it's full of designers anywhere in the world that creating the most sickest covers of Nike, Adidas, and they probably went into a lawsuit for doing this. So this is another time like the currency is no, creativity is the currency of the future, and this is really what apes are doing now. And in terms of Gary Vee, what he made instead, he onboarded a community of people that weren't familiar with NFTs. So he said, okay, I am the biggest digital educator worldwide. I'm going to educate my people in what's an NFT wallet, how to open an NFT wallet, how to open a crypto wallet, buy some Ethereum. And so I understand him, that he has got this trust, because probably he is the most famous people so far that launched an NFT, a serious NFT project. So he's got the trust of his community in saying, okay, let me do my job, and I'm gonna reward you forever for trusting me this, because he wants to build comics, cartoons, of which we token hold, because I hold a difference, of which we will have a part like of this. We will see our character interacting, but between the VFriends community, he's the smartest. So okay, do your job, and then we will be rewarded all together later. So I think that's a very important point, that to understand the difference between communities so far. So
Guys, real quick, so there's something you made me think of I hadn't thought of before, but Seth Godin really talks about this a lot when he looked at the software industry. If you've ever read any of Seth Godin's stuff or heard his stuff, it's so smart. And he talks about software piracy being such a big deal before things were SaaS and that kind of stuff. And he said, or at least he reported back then, that it wasn't about software piracy being the issue because you're losing money because people are copying disks and sharing software with each other. It's irrelevance is the issue. Like you'd rather have people pirate your stuff than just fade off into the sunset. So think about the IP that we have with the apes. Like Josh, when people start ripping off your apes to make stuff, like what are we going to do, right? Like, is that good for us? Is it not good for us? And we already see that on Twitter, right? Like people putting up fake profile pictures of stuff they don't own. It's like, how do we handle that? So I think it's like you guys both had said, there's a lot of stuff coming that should be really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So we introduce ape derivatives here. I just want to make a list of what I saw on Twitter, because it's amazing. I'm going to link everything in the description. So I saw beards, I saw iPhone cases and watches. I saw best jackets making Bored Day Prep Club. Do we want to talk about how is amazing is this song of doing apes inside of apes inside the song? Then I saw one interesting thing also, the Pirate Ape Yacht Club. maybe you know better than me what it is. I also saw apes to be used to reach out and save the orangutans into the Red Apes Orangutan Outreach, and that was like incredible for me, like charities also. And then I saw also like Bored Ape Chronicles, Chapter 1 released, edition of 100 made by Tim Pertz. Wow, wow, really a lot of projects here, guys. Also, Bored Ape Grand Program, that's something amazing that I saw, that you probably, you know, of course, what I'm talking about, like that I saw that have been some people that really contributed to the community has been established a grant for these people to be rewarding like $2,000 to Jenkins the Wallet BAYC. It's incredible. Like you are already established a system of rewardings to the people that are contributing to the community. So it's not that what we are saying before, we are making marketing free out of the Bored Apes community, but I can already be rewarded in some terms of economics. That's incredible. So also apes coming to the central and the Apeverse that is going to be built inside the sandbox. Wow, wow! Like, what are your thoughts about this? About all these projects? Is there your favorite for a reason? Because there is a lot of things to say and to see here. Who wants? Like,
I'll say something then. You can go, Hunter. No, Hunter, you're good.
All right. Something that I'm extremely excited for is how basically all of these side projects that are going to, or within the Bored Ape Yacht Club founders and their mods and all the people working with them now, how everything they're going to manifest their brand within virtual worlds, within the sandbox, the lands that they bought and that they own, within Decentraland, even CryptoVoxels at some point, Somnium. I think, I'm hyped about that. I think that whenever that is found out, the floor price is going to go nuts. Why? Because they're going to be doing something that has never been done before, and they're going to be giving access to us who own apes to something that's really, really awesome. That's what I'm most hyped about, because I'm also really obsessed with virtual worlds and the future of them, like just outside of Bored Ape Yacht Club. But I think that, we're talking about a company who's had what, $100 million in lifetime sales in like 4 months. If that was a company like valuated on the stock market, Spencer, I mean, you could help me out, but like I would think that it'd be like $2.5 billion or something in terms of market cap. Something stupid, right? So these guys right now have a lot of resources, and of course, not all of that is in the founders' pockets, but like they have all the resources to do the coolest things that have never even been thought up before.
Boom, that's incredible. So you're also saying about the future of virtual real estate and everything. That will be something very unique coming from the Ape. And because so we started to mention about benefits, which are the today's members only benefits that you had so far, you had access so far?
So I think so far we got the dogs, and then we also got the that sweatshirt, right? It was the what was it? The decentralized wearables. So we got both of those. It sounds like something this week will probably be announced about if you own a dog, and then also if you own an ape and a dog, there's an announcement coming out for that. And then you have the Mutant Apes announcement coming out sometime soon, I would assume. Which is also just another reason to not sell, right? If you go from 2 to 1, then I missed out on having a dog. Or if you go to 1 to 0, then you miss out on everything. And I don't know anyone who would right now go 1 to 0 unless, like, I don't know, your house burns down or something. God forbid that happens. But I think right now the incentive to hold is so high when we're going to keep on getting airdrop things. So it's like, why would I ever sell? And I wouldn't be surprised if come 3 years, the one thing you're airdropped is immediately worth 10 grand. Like I think right now, so the dog right now from the floor price like 2 ETH, so let's just say $4,000 for round numbers. That's a pretty big like free item to get. I've never gotten anything close to $4,000 for free for putting in zero work, zero effort, zero anything. So that benefit is huge. And of course, the merchandise, I was dumb and I was like, oh yeah, whatever. I don't really want the merch too bad. And then I looked on eBay and launched selling for like $1,200. So a little bit upset that I didn't go after that. And then events too. I think that we saw the one in Venice. That seemed pretty cool. I can't wait to there's one on like the East Coast and like New York, New Jersey that I could attend. But I think they've done a very good job with member only benefits. And I think even too the bathroom it's a neat idea. I think it seems like it's fallen off a little bit or people aren't visiting it as much, but I definitely think that they can make that into something else where people are going to want to visit and it's going to pay to visit that area of the site.
Guys, like the funny thing about airdrops too is, it costs you nothing to distribute it. If I go, Josh, hey, you have that couch behind you. I have good news. I'm going to give you another couch just like you. Be like, well, what am I going to do with this thing? Like, where am I going to put it? Right? There's no imposition on you. Like somebody drops something in your wall. You're like, sweet. Right. That's just more zeros and ones that aren't occupying any of my physical space. So it's such a brilliant concept. And the fact, just imagine these brands, like you got to think that people are going to start to look for Bored Ape wallets and be like, hey, here's a coupon for fill in the blank. Next time you're at the store, pick this up. Because they know like these are people that are of influence. They tend to talk a lot on social. Like you got to think that's just around the corner, man. Because you don't need anybody's permission to do that, right? So I think that would be something that could be pending for a lot of us.
Yeah, and even to add on to that, they did the whole Ledger thing, right? We got a discount code for that, like 20% off. That got me to purchase my Ledger Nano X. So definitely, the amount of influence they have is it's truly insane, and I can't really compare it to anything else other than like maybe like if you guys are into sneakers at all, like Kanye West, or we all know who that is, like wearing like a certain T-shirt, like back in the early 2000s, like let's like 2010 to like 2015. If Kanye wore a T-shirt, all of a sudden that T-shirt is sold out everywhere, and like just because of his influence. And that's being seen now, it's like their influence is insane. And it's like if they told me right now, like go buy marshmallows, or they had the hot sauce nut challenge or whatever thing. I was watching now, there's like 400 people and they're just like, and there's no video either. It's just me listening to people complain about how spicy their peanut is or whatever. So it's amazing the influence they have.
Boom. A lot of stuff here, guys. It's incredible. I want to touch one of the last points because I think it's very important. That is government powers and DAOs, because like it's something very new. Like people that are gathering into DAOs, they are creating these, let's say, companies, let's say, into DAOs where they collaborate in a way that's never done before. And I really think that without the need of creating an Ape DAO, you are already a DAO in a sense. Like you are really contributing to projects. So I want to ask you from the NFT world, what's your advice in creating, in managing a DAO? Because what you're doing, I think that should be an example for anyone. And in general, what are your thoughts about government powers and social powers enabled thanks to NFTs and the blockchain?
This is such a hard question, man. Like I'm part of the Ape DAO and a couple other ones, and just to see how quickly governance gets implemented, right? Like here's our idea, like we have this much in a treasury, we should go and buy this thing and add it to the DAO. I'm not sure how you'd ever regulate that, right? Because like I know in the United States we have a state, Wyoming, that's been pretty proactive as far as granting. They granted a banking charter to Kraken, which was the first digital-only banking charter, and they recently passed legislation for DAOs, but you need to name something like XYZ DAO, which kind of is not DAO at all. Like if you're basically saying here's an entity and here are the papers, then it's not really decentralized by proxy, I guess. Right? So if we think in terms of like all of these geographic barriers that we're moving around and stuff, like to have people be restricted by any given municipality or country or whatever, it's be really hard. But I think you just got to follow the money, right? Like the taxation is probably going to be the biggest deal. Like they don't really care if people are playing poker in a room in a basement with 4 other people and betting, because that's illegal, right? But they care if it's a massive amount of people. And so the DAOs, as they hit a critical mass, then it's probably going to be more just paying attention to it and say, hey, if you're running one of these, make sure you do this from a tax standpoint. That's it, at least my take on it so far.
Yeah, if I was a leader of a DAO, I'd definitely be a little afraid right now as to these out of rules are going to come into play, because it's obviously the United States government's not one you want to mess around with too much when it comes to money and stuff like that. But I know that like adding to the DAO, the Punks comics, I think they added, sounds like their DAO system is the most popular one, or actually the most popular, like the one that I'm into right now. I own a few Punks comics myself, and I think adding to that, it's really going to be like, it's almost like it's going to be the future like ETF in a way, where it's like, you kind of buy into this, basket of stuff, and it's going to be like the S&P 500, right? Where it's like, here's like the 500 best NFTs. We're gonna ride this out, and you can buy in and buy out whenever you want. I think that's going to be the future of investing in some way.
Yeah, I think from my perspective is if you're going to build out a DAO, like leave the US. And I think that we're going to see this crazy kind of like way that people are going to deal with that. I live in New York, so, we have some of the most stringent like taxation laws, and just like, it's just pretty annoying to live in New York when, if you're a crypto fan and if you've been in the crypto space. I think that we're going to see a lot of DAOs that are managed by the like fake founders who actually wanted to put it together by outsourcing to like Singapore, and having these people who will be like the like phantom founders. I have knowledge of people who are already doing something like that. And I that's what, with these laws and how the US has handled it so far, that's what they're asking for. And I think that's going to lead to a whole list of other problems down the line. But yeah, I don't have much of an opinion on that. In terms of I'm trying to create like something that is not really a DAO, but more of like a voting system within a Discord. I think that you can do stuff. I think that you can run a DAO, like an unofficial DAO. But yeah, it's very complex question, and very little people who have the answers.
Very early also the entire process, sure. So you're saying basically instead of creating a DAO, so totally decentralized, it's better to have, say, something more centralized, in the sense that it has got a name, but it's important to create a new voting system, a new government system. That's easier, and that fits more with the American system now of taxation and everything else. This is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think we're also careful what we want to say, just because in case in 5 years they play this in court, we're like, I didn't say that. I'm like, nope, I did not say anything to that effect.
It's a statute of limitations in this.
Oh, that's funny to hear about New York, because I'm from Italy, but now in UK. I really want to move to New York, because I think that there is where NFT people are. But I don't know, you are saying better not to do it. So probably I will stay in Europe for the next years, just to see and discover better the situation about crypto and NFT stuff, because I think it will be really, really relevant, the place where you are. Okay, so guys, a lot of thoughts here, incredible, really, we went really deep, I think, into what I wanted to know, and I learned a lot about the ape community. The last step is that I joined this ape community because I don't have my NFT, I don't have my ape. So I also got no money, so I don't know, but I will find some solution probably over the next months. One could be, I don't know, maybe let's mint this episode as an NFT, but I don't think someone is going to buy it. Well, no, maybe I can add some utility token, like, okay, if you buy this episode, you will be a guest at the NFT podcast. Or I don't know, have you got some other ideas that can benefit the Bored Ape community for buying this episode? I don't know if you've got. So maybe I can do this move, otherwise it's not a problem.
Yeah, I think buying an ape now, it's before I think you could have maybe made a derivative project and kind of worked yourself into buying an ape, but I think now that the floor is like 6.5 ETH, something somewhere around there, it's I think now it's pretty, unless you have the money or you get lucky and win a giveaway, it's hard without money now to buy an ape.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. I mean, you could take it a loan, maybe take out and hopefully it goes up enough where you can pay off the loan and then keep your ape. But good luck getting a bank to give you 20 grand for an NFT.
To my bank, hey, please, I need to buy an ape. To be the first time. Maybe someone is gonna give me an ape just for the fact of trying to do something like this with a bank. Okay, guys. So really, thank you very, very much for coming here today. It's been so important to learn all this stuff together, and see you soon on another episode with other apes, probably.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks all.
Yeah, thanks so much. Great to connect with all you guys.
Yeah, everyone. Thank you, guys.
Speak soon, guys.
See you guys.